mode? Yes, we can see it. Go ahead.
Great. Okay, wonderful. So it's really lovely to have you all with us, and really excited that you're all considering studying and applying at the Sustainability Institute. So I work at the Sustainability Institute. I oversee all of our adult learning programs. I work really closely with Meg as the coordinator of the postgrad diploma. And I'm just going to do a little bit of an introduction to what the Sustainability Institute is all about, and for you to get a sense really of the kind of place that you're going to be studying at and in when you do, and if you do join us. So really we have a couple of focus areas. The Sustainability Institute is an independent nonprofit trust that was established in 1999. And we partner with Stellenbosch University to offer this degree program that you're all interested in. We really focus on education, so we run a whole bunch of education programs from birth to adults. We do a lot of research, and we also are very interested in the application of the theory that we chat about in the classrooms. So it's really one of the big things about the Sustainability Institute is you'll be coming into a space where we actively try and apply sustainability on the ground. So we're an organization that really tries to practice what we preach or practice what we teach in the classrooms. And I think this really contributes to a very unique learning environment. And as I mentioned, we partner with Stellenbosch University, and that's a memorandum of understanding, an MOU that we have with the university that has been in existence since 2002. We offer various degree programs through Stellenbosch University. So it's the undergrad diploma in sustainable development, which is a 3-year program. Then it's the postgrad diploma in sustainable development, which you're all here for today. And then once you have completed the postgrad, which is modular and module based, you're able to apply for the master's program, the MPhil, if you wish to do so. And Megan will go into a lot more detail later on the structure of the postgrad, what the modules are like, what the content is, and she'll be able to answer all of your questions that are specifically related to the program. So here you can see sort of just the partnerships within the university, the School for Public Leadership. Stellenbosch University, obviously, the School for Public Leadership is a department within the Economics and Management's faculty. We also work sometimes with the Renewable and Sustainable Energy Studies Center with the engineering faculty. And then a very big partner is the Center for Sustainability Transitions, which Meg will maybe share a little bit more about later. So just a little bit on our spaces. So, you know, you'll be a student at Stellenbosch University. You'll be registered as a Stellenbosch University student. You'll have access to all of the facilities at Stellenbosch, but you actually come to the Sustainability Institute for all of your modules. So you'll never actually be on main campus for any of your learning experiences. They all happen at the Sustainability Institute. And we're located about 16 kilometers outside of the center of Stellenbosch. I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but we're across from Spear Wine Farm in an area called Lyndoch. So here are some images of our spaces. If you can see, it's a beautiful, beautiful campus. We're part of a bigger eco-village. There's an eco-village based at Lyndoch as well. And a very big building in which all of our classes take place, and beautiful outdoor areas where we often go and spend time in these outdoor areas, which is a big part of our learning approach. We have a woodlands area, which is just a beautiful space for nature to exist. We have a vegetable garden. So on the bottom right, you'll see some students that have just harvested some of the veggies that we then use in our lunches and all the meals that we cook on site. So it's a really, really beautiful environment, and very different, I think, to main campus. You will never walk into a sort of seminar lecture style room of chairs and hundreds of people in one class. It's very small. You'll be one of 50 to 60 students that are applying or that get accepted into the program. And some of the modules can be as small as 15 people. So it's very small, intimate, and you'll get to know the Institute and our people very, very well, and you'll really form part of a community. So our learning approach that we apply in all of our learning programs is based on the following principles, and you'll be able to find out more on this on our website as well if you're interested. But we're really focused on place-based education, which means that we are very aware and very sort of influenced by the place that we find ourselves in geographically, in terms of the history of the place, in terms of the ecology of the place, in terms of how place influences how we are in the world, how we are with each other. So this is a very big driving principle within our learning approach. It's also quite action oriented. So the fact that you're coming into a space where we are actively applying sustainability principles in the everyday allows you to kind of connect theory to practice, or the abstract to the concrete. And a lot of the modules also are very hands-on. So we talk about learning through head, heart, and hands, or learning through mind, body, and soul. So we strongly believe that you don't just come in and learn through your head, but that your entire body is involved in that. So in the mornings, we'll often do a movement, we'll come into our bodies, we'll come we'll presence ourselves, and we'll learn through application, field trips, etc. And we also truly believe that, one of the big reasons that you're probably looking into this program is that you want to create change. And change doesn't really happen unless we are really passionate about that. And if we don't awaken passion or help stimulate or fire you up, then we've not really done our jobs. So a really big part of that is connecting to our soul, connecting to our inner world, connecting to what we're passionate about. You'll see it's a very big community feeling. So you'll get to know other learners that are on site. As I mentioned earlier, we run a lot of education programs. You'll be learning sometimes with some of the children that are part of our primary school. You'll get to know some of the youth that are in the youth program. You'll see some of the small kids from that are in the creche. You'll see them in the gardens. So it's really a big community of learners, but also staff. And we believe that, becoming part of this community is part of your bigger support network later on, once you also graduate, going into a very strong alumni community. And also one of the big principles is reflective learning. So, really incorporating reflectivity into each of the modules, and understanding where you are as an individual in terms of this bigger process, and these bigger theories that you're learning about. Then just to share a little bit what we do in the mornings, which is a little bit unusual. 1 second, whoops. 1 second, let me just hold on one. I'm so sorry about that. So mornings in community is called what we call Elima. Elima is a Xhosa concept, something that they do often in the rural communities, where you call people together to help with a task that the entire community gets involved with. And like I mentioned earlier, being part of a community is a huge driving force of what we do at the Institute. And this forms a big part of our learning experience. So in the mornings, we'll start off in a big circle. Somebody will do a reading. We'll do a little bit of a movement, maybe that's breathing or stretching. Sometimes it's a bit more high energy and we do a little dance. And then we divide you up and we ask you to participate in our community. And that could be either harvesting or planting or working with the soil in our vegetable garden. It could be food preparation in the kitchen. It could be cleaning our spaces or picking up litter. Or it could be getting involved in creative projects, smaller art projects that we're busy with on site, doing murals, beautifying our spaces. So this is really a core part of what we do with our students, and a really different way of approaching learning. I think you're not just students who come in, learn, download something, and download information and leave again. You really participate and give back into the community that you will form a part of for 1 or 2 or 3 years. If you'd like to find out more, there's a lot of information available and a lot more. I would have loved to play a video, but because of the internet connection, we're not doing that this morning. But there are a lot of videos available that speak about our learning approach, that speak about the eco-village, that speak about the history of the SI. And you'll be able to find all of that on our YouTube channel, Sustainability Institute, if you look us up on YouTube. You'll also find a lot of these videos on our website, as well as other information. So if you haven't looked at our website, I'd highly recommend that you go and explore the different programs that we offer and all of the different resources that are available on the website. And then also something that we brought out last year, which I think would be of interest to all of you, is the podcast called In Conversation With, which you can find on Spotify or all of basically the podcast platforms. And in this podcast, we speak to all of the different lecturers that are part of the postgrad diploma. So you'll be able, by listening to these, you'll be able to get a better sense of not only who the lecturers are that are part of the degree program, but also the kinds of content that is discussed in the modules, to see if this is of interest to you, and also to get a better sense of which modules you're interested in, because there are so many and it's extremely broad, and students often want to take all of them, but you won't be able to cope with that. Megan will explain later how many of the modules you need to take in order to graduate. And then of course we're on social media as well, which is also a really nice outlet to see what we're up to. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn, we often post more of our sort of academic work or research that we're doing. So I'd also recommend that you follow us on these platforms in order to get a better sense of the diversity and variety of work that we do. And with that, sorry for rushing a little bit, but we did start a little bit late. And I hope that gives you a good sense of what we do as an organization and the kind of learning approach that we take, and that it is quite a bit different to conventional, traditional higher education. And I'd like to hand over to Megan to take you through, the program specifically. And if you would like to, if you do have any questions, you're welcome to post them into the chat so long, and we'll try and answer them as we go. But we do also have a Q&A session at the end where you're able to ask a lot of questions. Great, thank you so much.
Thanks, Vanessa. So as we've said, you're welcome to ask questions in the chat, and we'll keep track of those. I'm just going to share my screen now, and we can start the presentation specifically with details about the program. Just give me a minute. Can everybody see the presentation?
Yeah.
Thanks, Vanessa. Okay, so we've gotten a sense of this amazing place that is the Landoc Eco Village and the Sustainability Institute that is located at the Landoc Eco Village. This is a photograph that I took just last week, actually, with students in my renewable energy finance module, as we started the day with this incredible weather, outside in the gardens, in the amazing permaculture gardens at the SI. And on Tuesday, we had another beautiful day where we hosted the in-person open day. So I'm very glad that it worked out that we had the rain today and not on Tuesday when we had our guests. So now these are just some images to help you imagine this amazing learning environment where things are done very differently from a traditional or conventional university degree. And as Vanessa said, there's much more to this experience than just learning and engaging content, and you form much part of a much wider community of trying to live and experiment with different ways of being in the world in a sustainable way. So I'd like to give you some more information about the formal program, the Postgrad Diploma in Sustainable Development. And as we go, I might ask Beatrix, Nina, Henry, and Johan for input or reflection. So I hope that you don't mind me calling on you as we go. So some important institutional context. So as Vanessa has said, this program is delivered through a partnership between the Sustainability Institute and Stellenbosch University. The Postgrad Diploma itself is from 2022, located at the Center for Sustainability Transitions, which is a department within the Faculty of Economic and Management Sciences at Stellenbosch University. And you can see there that Stellenbosch University has recently gone through a rebranding, so you might become a bit more familiar with the new logo of the university. So that is something that makes this program particularly unique, but also gives it its special edge that we offer this as a partnership between the SI and the university. So that's the important institutional context. And just to remind us of where this all takes place, this is another view of that amazing permaculture garden. And you can see this is probably where Emmanuel, you've driven past on the main road many times and wondered what is behind this hedge. And it's actually this incredible garden space with outdoor learning spaces and many paths and benches in beautiful spots. So as Vanessa has also mentioned, the Postgrad Diploma forms part of the broader Masters in Sustainable Development, which is an integrated master's program. And this is information that you will know from the prospectus that you will have read through, and many of you will have familiarized yourself with. And so the PGD is the first step in the first component in that integrated master's program. So you apply to the Postgrad Diploma, and you either complete in 1 or 2 years. We'll explain that in a minute. But you have the choice, once you have graduated from the Postgrad Diploma, to proceed into the Masters of Philosophy degree in Sustainable Development, what we call the MPhil, which is where the research component of the Masters takes place. So this is another view. We've walked around from the gardens where we start the day, and now you come into the building and the SI space where we host all of our modules. And to perhaps give you some information about the PGD at a high level, this is information that's also in the prospectus. Annually, we have an intake of around 60 students. And like today's group, they can come from different parts of South Africa and from other parts of the world. It's really great to always have space for international students in the group, African students, students from South America, from the United States. So I hope that we are able to welcome some of our international students next year, COVID allowing. The program can be done either full-time in 1 year, or it can be done over 2 years part-time. So the program caters for many different ways of engaging. So you might be you may be working for a company and be able to do the program and continue your work. So in that scenario, you may participate as a part-time student and study over 2 years. You may be able to commit full-time to the program and where you would do it in 1 year. So we try to provide flexibility for different ways of participating. And how that plays out is that you spread the modules that are required to complete the degree either over 1 year or 2 years. And I'll say a little bit more about that. So the accreditation of the program is it's an honors level accreditation. an honors level program, and it's at an NQF level 8. So some of you might know what that means. And it's 120 credits, and that's made up of different modules that each weigh 15 credits, and you have to do 8 modules in total in order to qualify for the degree, and obviously pass all of them as well. In terms of our curriculum, we have a very diverse curriculum, and the way that that's structured is that we also allow students as much choice to decide which avenue that they would like to take and which combination of modules they would like to choose. But everybody starts off with the compulsory foundation module, which is the sustainable development module that also has an orientation included in it. So everybody comes together at the start of the year for orientation and sustainable development. And thereafter, you either choose 7 modules in that year, or another 3 in that year, and 4 in the following academic year, in order for you to either participate full-time or part-time. And we'll get to the list of modules next. So I don't see what's happening in the chat, but if there are questions, please, Amelia, and if you could just keep a record of those questions, and hopefully they are covered in the next while. Amelia?
Sure, yes, I'm keeping track.
Megan,
Thank
there's
you.
there is a question about how one would divide one's time. If you, let's say you don't live in Cape Town, you know, like how long are the modules and how much time would one just spend at the SI specifically?
Thanks, Nina. So I'll say a little bit to that, and maybe, Nina, you can also come in with some of your experience of having done this yourself as a working person over 2 years. So how it works is that our modules are offered as blocks. So we have 8 modules that you have to complete in a year, and they are offered in a block from a Monday to a Saturday morning. And we have a schedule which spells out the calendar for the academic year. And we have all of the 15 modules that are offered on the program scattered through the academic year. And when you choose modules for the year, you will take into consideration whether you're doing it full-time and how you would fit in 8 modules in that period. If you're doing it part-time, you would take into consideration, for example, times of the year when you are able to take leave, for study leave, for example, or travel to the SI for those modules. So you would take into consideration a number of factors in how you designed your academic year and which modules you chose. In terms of time commitment, you are required to be present for the block module from the Monday to the Saturday in person at the Sustainability Institute in Stellenbosch. So you may live in Johannesburg, or you may live in Cape Town, and you would then make sure that you were free for that full week, and you would come to Stellenbosch to the Sustainability Institute every day from 8 until 5, from Monday to Friday, and 9 until 12 usually on the Saturday. So it's a full commitment for that block week, but it's not the only time that you are thinking about the module. That is when the contact time for the module is, where you are with a lecturer and with classmates and doing the actual work in the module. But we also think about the module as time that goes into preparing for the module and the time that's required to fulfill the assessments in the module. And the way that we usually explain that to students is that it's 50 hours of preparation, reading, reflection, and individual work, 50 hours in the classroom of contact time, and then 50 hours of writing up that assignment and completing the requirements for the module. So while the dates for the module might just be Monday to Saturday, your commitment to each module is actually over a much longer period of time, right from the time where you start reading the material required for the module all the way until you submit the assignment. And for our assessments, we don't require exams, and this is something that is explained in the prospectus. Our assessment framework is individual assignments, written assignments, and we have group assessment, and so for each module, we have a certain requirement of 5 different assessments that are required for each module, but it's importantly not exams. From Henry, what it's like to to be committed to full-time study? I know your learning experience has been a bit different because of COVID, but something about what it takes to be in the program.
Sure, thanks, Megan. Yeah, my experience has been a little bit different, just with regard to the rapid need to adapt to the sort of circumstances of the world, which has sort of been done in the stride of the SI kind of very well, especially moving into this year and bringing in a more sort of hybrid learning approach. Yeah, and just from my experience, my background was in environmental science, and coming into the SI I was very delighted to experience the sort of very diverse set of disciplines that people brought into the space, as well as what you yourself get engaged in the classroom. It very much expands your view of things, so that you get to take on a much more sort of interdisciplinary perspective on these very real world challenges of sustainability, and also the wonderful sort of elective circumstance of choosing your modules. You can really sort of tailor your experience to your interests, and the network that the space provides is incredibly useful for moving into a sort of employment space if you're not in that already, or just to upskill where you are at the current stage of your life. Anything else you'd like me to speak to, Megan?
I think that's good for now. Thanks, Henry. It's nice to hear from you as you're in the throes of the program. So perhaps next we can talk a little bit about the admission requirements and the selection process. And here, maybe I'd like to ask Beatrix if it's possible for you to spell this out for the group. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure, Megan. The admission requirements are that you must have a 3-year bachelor degree or a 4-year diploma. If you're an international student, then your qualification will be assessed by our Stellenbosch University's international office to see if the institution where you got your qualification from is a recognized tertiary institution. There is a question about RPL in the chat. I don't know if you want me to talk about that now, Megan. So students who don't have, okay, let me maybe first continue and then I'll talk about the RPL. So we look at a diverse selection criteria. So you do your application. Once you have completed that online and submitted all your supporting documents that the application platform requires from you, then I pick up your application and I will send you a departmental application form. Part of the departmental application is that you must write 1,000-word motivation as to why you wish to study this program. And people often ask me, so what must I write? And I can sometimes see that people sort of copy and paste from the internet a very sort of an academic thing, or they do almost like a cover letter for a job interview. You know, I'm dedicated and I got good marks and I'm really a good person. And I think what I always tell the people, and Megan may elaborate on that, is speak from your heart. What is it that drives you? and motivates you. That's what we want to hear. Many different, we look at different criteria when we do the selection. So we look at your academic history. You're required to have an average of 60%, because our postgrad diploma is on an honors level, and that is a general requirement at Stellenbosch University, that you must have 60%. We look at your relevant working history, or and your motivation. People who don't have a 3-year bachelor's degree or a 4-year qualification are still, you can still apply. Obviously your academic requirement won't be met, but we will also look at your working history, your almost want to say your social impact history, your motivation. And if we think you're good enough to venture a chance on, we will register you as a special student and register you for 3 modules. That's the university requirement. You have to do sustainable development, which is on the side, as well as 3 modules. If you get an average of 65% for those 3 modules, we use that as your prior learning portfolio. And we submit that to the faculty board with a motivation saying, this student does not have the academic requirement for the program, but based on his I don't know what the English word is. Based on his performance on the 3 modules, we recommend that he or she be admitted to the program. That only takes place the following year. If the faculty board says, yeah, that's perfect, then you can register in the PGD program. The hassle of that is you will pay for 3 modules in your special student, your RPL year. Those 3 modules, the credits for those cannot be transferred to the PGD, which means that you have to register for a further 8 modules. So it's a time-consuming process. You're going to have an extra year, and you're also going to, it's not cheap, because of you basically going to have to pay for 11 modules. In terms of the application procedure, you have to drive it. The university system sends emails and SMSs and messages to say we still need these documents and these documents. I don't follow up on that. You have to follow up on that to make sure that your application has been finalized on the university system and that they have everything that they need, because otherwise I'm going to disregard your application. I only look at applications that are complete. And every year I get a phone call from somebody saying, I had a phone call from somebody last month saying, I applied to the PGD, but I never got any confirmation. So what's happened to my application? And the answer is, well, you didn't submit. They were still looking for 1 or 2 of your documents. And yeah, we already almost half of the new year. So yeah, sorry, you didn't make it. So please just be vigilant about that. If you don't know whether you should apply or whether you want to come, apply. You've got nothing to lose. International students don't pay application fees. South African students pay R100 application fee, as far as I know. We will do the selection more or less in October. The closing date for applications is the 31st of August. But please apply well before then, just to make sure that all your documents are in by the 31st of August. We'll do the selection in October and you will be notified by mid-November. We realize that international students must still apply for a visa, and we try and accommodate international applications sooner than mid-November. Then if you have been admitted, the university makes you an offer. You have to pay 2,000 Rand deposit to secure your place on the program. So until then, and that's usually by the start of December. So until then, you have time to decide whether you want to take up this program and study next year. Our academic year starts on the 1st of January. Normally, we start orientation end of January, and then the first 2 weeks of February is Sustainable Development module. This year, due to the lockdown and the COVID, we started a bit later, but that is normally how our academic year runs. We don't have an intake in the middle of the year. If you're an undergraduate at this stage, please apply. We will register you as in the PGD, but if you're not able to supply a graduation certificate, we may change your registration to a special student, but that's individual things. What you must look out for the international students, please go onto the international page, international office page of the university. International students, depending on where they are in the world, just outside South Africa, the wider Africa, or out of Africa, pay additional fees. So please just make sure that you understand that. International students must pay all their fees up front. And I can physically not register you if the international office hasn't cleared your profile on the system. Okay, so Megan, I think for me, that's all, unless there's anything you think I've left out.
That's great. Thank you, Beatrix. I'm just processing the questions in the chat, and I'm going to just answer them now. I see one question about the dates for the modules. So Beatrix, we only release that at the start of the academic year because we have to take into consideration a number of factors from the academic calendar, public holidays, the availability of lecturers. So unfortunately, we aren't able to give you that now. But then there's another question. Is there anything else on that one, or another reason why we do it that way, Beatrix? In terms of students wanting to plan for the year?
Basically, I think because we start on the date. You can just hear the sigh in my voice. I hate doing the dates because it's like a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
We start with that process in June. Normally, that's just how the flow is. And hopefully by October, we have been able to take in everybody's lectures, and you will appreciate we have 15 modules and 15 different lectures, more or less. So it's moving parts. But I can tell you that at this stage, we will probably, if the COVID is a thing of the past, we will start our year by end of January to end of February. I think at this stage, that's all I can say.
Yes.
What I've also seen in the chat is people saying, where's the online application platform and are there bursaries? In the chat, I've given you the link to the prospectus. So much of that, most of your questions will be also in the prospectus. So just have a look there. The whole application procedure is also set out in the prospectus.
Yes, that's helpful. Thanks, Beatrix. So processes around what it means to apply as an international student, what the process and the place where you do that application, all of that information can be found in the prospectus. So yes, you do have to participate in the modules in terms of the contact time that each module entails. And that means traveling to Stellenbosch to participate for those and the full duration of each of those modules. In terms of accommodation, a lot of students do live in the surrounding areas, that there's no accommodation for students on site at the Landoc Eco Village at the SI. You have to find a private accommodation and in and around Stellenbosch, or else travel from where you live in another part of the country.
Megan, sorry, just maybe quickly jumping in there. The Eco Village, sometimes some of the residents do open their homes for homestays. But I mean, it's just a couple of houses, but you could always inquire. You can ask myself, and I could link you to people in the village for those that maybe want to consider that as an option.
Great. So there's an opportunity for short-term stay at the Landoc Eco Village for a limited number of people, should you like to explore that. The dates for the application window have been shared in the chat and are also available on the university platforms. Perhaps just to continue now a little bit into the, oh gosh, I just scrolled ahead. To continue now into the discussion about the actual material that we cover in the module. We've spoken a little bit about admissions, and now I think it would be useful to hear a little bit more about the different modules. So as you can see from this list of modules on the screen, we have a huge diversity of modules, and we allow a lot of choice for students to take different combinations. And remember what we said earlier about making sure that one chooses a thoughtful selection of modules given the time constraints and your personal situation. So remember, everybody does the Sustainable Development module. That's the foundation module for the program. And then you choose following 7 modules to complete the degree. So here we have a few people who are module conveners. It might be nice to hear a little bit from Johan to speak to the Leading Transitions and Socio-Ecological Ethics module. Johan, would you be open to sharing a little bit about your module?
Yes, thank you very much, Megan. Very briefly, you see Leading Transitions and Social Ecological Ethics, maybe a number of strange words, but basically we do a deep exploration of what is required for meaningful socio-ecological transitions. What is it? And that deep exploration has got to do with diving into the self, a deep exploration of the self, of values, of rationalities, of spiritualities and activisms. So we end up doing very hard work, which is basically critical, radical, transformative and even provocative in what we do. But perhaps Nina can say in a sentence how she went through this course, and maybe you as well, what it meant to you.
Thanks, Johan. Yes, I really enjoyed Johan and Eve's course. It was the one course that really asked me to pitch up in a way that was vulnerable, in a way that was sometimes confrontational, to have me examine my deep-seated values, to have me ask difficult questions about myself, my relationship to nature, the kinds of trade-offs that I'm willing to make in my world and in my life. And there was also a very lovely creative flavor to this module that was less academic, but still very rigorous. And so there was a wonderful balance of different kinds of opportunities to engage with the learning, not only through books, but through the space at the Sustainability Institute, outside in nature, quiet time with myself, to write and reflect and be creative. And for me, this module is really a module that is more personal. It has a much more personal register. You know, it's about ethics and leadership. And I think the journey that Johan and Eve take us on to explore those concepts beyond the conceptual frameworks is a really wonderful experience. So thanks, Johan and Eve. I still trip off about that, about that experience.
Thank you, Nina. Just perhaps to round off around the creative dimension, part of the journey is to discover your own, call it leadership challenge, and how to define it, how to articulate it, how to engage with it, what to change and how. So perhaps I will just stop here, Megan.
Thank you, Johan, and thank you, Eve. It's a really significant module on the program because it is about how we see ourselves in the process of figuring out what it means to be a more sustainable world. And what our combinations of modules do is they speak to these different levels of what it means to go through a personal process of transformation and reflection. But we have other modules that think about what change looks like at the city level. For example, in the Sustainable Cities module, how would we think about transforming our food systems, our energy systems? How do we think about the role of business? How do we think about the role of biodiversity and supporting ecosystem services? We have practical modules that help us plot and model complex systems. And we also have a more philosophical module, which really grounds our thinking in a complexity worldview. So we have a really diverse set of modules, which we can learn a lot more about a number of them from the podcast that Vanessa shared earlier. So the modules that you see inside this black box on the screen are the modules that are offered directly under the Postgrad Diploma, under the umbrella of the program, but we also allow students to sign up for modules that are offered by the School of Public Leadership and the Department of Engineering related to development planning and also renewable energy systems. So if there are any questions, I think there's a question from Mpumi. I'll come to you now, but there was an outstanding question from somebody in the chat around admissions. And it was a question about whether you can jump straight to the master's if you have a PhD. And unfortunately, we don't allow students to jump into the master's. You begin the master's program, the integrated master's program, through the postgrad diploma. And only once you've graduated from the postgrad diploma can you go on to do the MPhil. So I hope that answers that outstanding question. Mpumi, your hand is up. Would you like to ask a question related to the modules?
I thanks for giving me the opportunity. Through my working space, I've been exposed to some short courses, of which of them was sustainable development and narrative research methods through University of Stellenbosch. And also some on renewable energy and advocacy and lobbying for renewable energy and energy policy. And I'm not sure about the accreditation in terms of those courses when I apply or on the entry level.
Okay, so this is a question around admissions, and perhaps as Beatrix said earlier, it's always worth including all that information when you apply on your CV and in your motivation letter, and we will take that into consideration. So yes, please include all of that. I don't know your personal situation, so I don't want to say it does or it doesn't count, but apply anyway and include all of that information.
Okay.
Okay. So Nina, you're also here with us. Would you like? Sorry, Mpumi, was there another part of your question that I didn't? Did you want to ask something else?
Yeah. Would you maybe require or accept a letter of support from any other institution or organization that I have worked with?
That's also, Beatrix, do you want to answer this question?
I want to answer the previous question. If you've done short courses at Stellenbosch University that are part of our full list of modules, and you have a mark for them and they are accredited, then we may be able to transfer those credits to the PGD, but you will still need to pay full module fees.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry, Beatrix, I by mistake muted you. I was meant to mute myself. That was a mistake. Sorry.
Yeah, so Mpumi, maybe just pop me an email. You can email me at diploma@sun.ac.za. But my email address is also in the prospectus.
Yes.
Okay, Mpumi, I hope that answers your questions. We would also, you're welcome to include a letter of support as well, if that's something that you can include in your. So the question about module fees, Beatrix, can we direct students to the prospectus to find out fees, the fee structure?
Yes, you can definitely. We don't have the fees for 2022 yet. They are normally only released in November. Normally, I say to people, maybe budget for an increase of between 3 and 7%, but that's based on how it's been the past couple of years, but it's a thumb suck. I really don't know. And you pay basically, it's all in the prospectus. If you do 8 modules, you pay module fee times 8. If you do 4 modules a year, you pay module fees times 4. And the year after, you pay module fees times 4 with the inflation added.
Okay, so I hope that answers the questions in the chat about the fee structure. So Makundi is asking what are the current fees? Is that also in a place?
That's
is that possible?
That's in the prospectus. They are more or less. Hang on, I have it here. At this stage, they are 6,574. 6,004 rand per module.
Okay, so Makundi, hopefully that's in the prospectus for this year, and the information that's about the updated fees will only be released later in the year. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so are there any specific module related questions? Perhaps those could go in the chat if you have module specific questions. Otherwise, I would love to ask Nina to share a little bit about the modules the module that you run.
Hi, everybody. Yes, so I co-convene the Globalization, Governance and Development module with Mark Swilling. And it's really an inquiry to these omnipresent global systems and how our local contexts are embedded in global systems like the globalized financial system, the enduring effects of colonization, and part of that is also an inquiry into toxic masculinity and gendered power. I think it's a way to understand the governance and globalized systems that keep us stuck in a way, and we really try and unpack that on a systems level, but also inquire how those systems land in our very own lives. This course also has some focus on Africa and Africa's development, and how we think about African development and African leadership. So I think that this course really tries to get to grips with academic writing like Ndlovu Gacheni, who talks very much about this enduring colonization, the effects of colonization, and how we experience it as coloniality, and how that is really experienced in all spheres of life. So besides for the academic frameworks, it also really tries to get to grips with some kinds of current affairs and current discourses around decolonization, around gender. So it's not it's not only kind of the dry stuff, you know, it also challenges your own world, and what kind of man do you want to be, and what kind of woman do you want to be, and what are the relational dynamics that you enact in your life, either consciously or unconsciously. So I really, really enjoy that course. There's also a very hopeful side to the course, where we don't just focus on the problem, but try and understand what a governance and development framework could look like by focusing on the idea of the commons. And this is a really interesting way to approach a sustainability solution. I'm also a little bit involved with the Sustainable Economic Policy Options module that really looks at applied economics. So you don't have to know anything about economics really. It's an application of economics so that we can understand the political economy, and what are the policy choices that have set us on different paths for our development and for our economic and social growth. How did they come into being? Are they working? How do we change them? So that's a very interesting module. It also looks at the phenomenon of state capture and geopolitics, to understand the economic impacts that things like predatory power has on the pathways of development and policy development for different countries. So for me, that's a very it really asks you to get to grips with history, and it really asks you to examine what has gone before, and what that impact has been for our social and economic thriving. It has a specific South Africa focus on one hand, and then an much more broader African focus, to understand that phenomena like state capture is not a national concern, it's a global concern. But to understand how that all comes together and what it looks like and what the dynamics are within our polity, really. Thanks.
Thank you, Nina. So as Nina's described, the globalization, governance and development module in a unique way grapples with the burning issues of our time. And that's certainly true for all the modules, taking different perspectives. So I hope this has given you an idea of the different modules. Each of these are offered as blocks through the year. They are all offered in the same format, which is Monday to Saturday, and they have time that students are required to prepare for the module. They attend synchronous contact sessions, and then you work on an assignment, and you do that for exactly the same process for all 8 modules in the year if you're full-time, or all 4 modules in the year if you're part-time. So we have a standard approach for all the modules, and that's true for all of the modules on the program. So perhaps now, just to move towards wrapping up, here's a closer picture of our outdoor classroom. And you've heard a little bit from Vanessa about the particular learning approach that's infused in our program. This is from the Sustainability Institute website. We think about learning as something that happens in a unique place, which is why we ask you to attend contact sessions at the Sustainability Institute for the week of the module contact session time. It's action-oriented, it's embedded in nature, it's reflective. We try to connect with mind, body, and soul within a wider community. And perhaps just to reflect on what happens once you've completed the PGD. Some of you may continue to do the MPhil thereafter, but regardless of whether you continue on the path with the MPhil, everybody who graduates from the PGD is becomes part of the Sustainability Institute's alumni network, which is a really rich and interesting group of people in all across different parts of the world. And there are some really exciting things happening there. So Vanessa runs this LinkedIn page, and then there's also something called the Alumni Digest, which Amelia runs, which shares insights from the program and the network more broadly with the alumni group. So there are multiple opportunities that come from graduating from the postgrad diploma, whether that's enriching your current work inquiry. Let's say you work in the civil society, public sector, corporate space, whether you want to redirect and pivot to a different space and become a social entrepreneur, whether you want to study further and become, move into a research space. There are a whole host of opportunities that are made possible by the PGD. So I'm going to stop sharing here and hope that we can use the last little bit of time that we have to answer any outstanding questions. And I would encourage you to revisit the prospectus now that we've had this session. Perhaps what's explained there makes a little bit more sense. And otherwise, we can answer a few more questions in the chat, or I invite you now to unmute and ask any last questions.
Hello, Megan.
Hi, who's speaking there?
It's Mike.
Josh? Michael, go ahead, Michael.
Yes. Myself, I have a national diploma in industrial design. So, since here in South Africa, they don't offer sustainable design course. So I felt like if I go for sustainable development, it will help me to transition to sustainable design. So I can use it for my sustainable design project, because I work with communities. I help communities in VUT. We have a science and technology park where we help communities with their design, their invention and stuff. So I think this course, I can align it with that so that I don't just design products, but I look at a broader picture of sustainability of the product.
That's really great. The design thinking module on the program might be of interest to you, and yeah, it's nice to see that you could perhaps see this program as supporting your work. So thanks for that, Michael.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Hi, Megan, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question. As a foreigner, I had one concern. How much is it applied to South Africa? And, as a foreigner, I guess I have a limited knowledge, right? So, yeah, how much is it applied to South Africa and then outside of South Africa and maybe outside of Africa? I mean, in terms of the courses, the modules and everything.
That's a good question. We try to navigate those different scales, thinking about local conditions. What does it mean to be in Stellenbosch, in South Africa, but also looking beyond that to what does it mean to be participating in an African context, and what are the global trends that are relevant to our learning and that we can connect to. So it's not generic and it's not high level that you can apply everywhere. It's definitely rooted in our context. And so it is sometimes really eye-opening for international students to learn more about the particular context, but we do connect to other contexts in other parts of the world to build that international perspective.
Okay, thank you so much.
There's a question about homestay in the chat. That is not something we're able to give information about because that's a private initiative with homeowners at the Landock Eco Village. And if you're interested in the homestay option, you can contact Amelia. So the question about an honors level degree in a specialized field, will it not be a challenge if you don't do the diploma in sustainable development? So just to reiterate, the integrated masters in sustainable development is made up of 2 degree programs. And in order to start that process, everybody has to begin with a postgrad diploma in sustainable development, which is an honors level NQF8 qualification. Only once you've completed the PGD are you able to apply for and move into the MPhil in sustainable development. So those 2 degrees are stacked on top of each other. You have to do the PGD in order to proceed to the MPhil. I hope that answers the question from Kia in the chat.
Megan, if I could just come in there, to add to what you're saying now, is we look for your initial qualification. We don't care what your initial degree is. So no, you don't have to do the diploma in sustainable development. Our intake, we try to have as diverse as possible, take in a group of students. We've had vets, psychologists, social workers, teachers, accountants, you name it, we've had them, journalists, chef. So no, you don't have to do the undergrad diploma to get into the postgrad diploma.
Yes, that's helpful. Thanks, Beatrix. I didn't properly respond to that question. Sorry, Kia. But yes, we encourage a diverse set of backgrounds, and we are open to lots of people with different backgrounds, many of you coming from very different backgrounds yourselves.
Sorry, Megan, and if I can just add there, it was a question that we had the day before yesterday at our in-person open day, about people student applicants who are currently busy with their undergrad. Please, if you are an undergrad, please apply. You will, if you are admitted to the program, you will join a group of students who are very diverse in age. So you may be 21 and you'll be sharing a class with somebody who's in their 50s and has a lot of experience in the working field, but you come with your own experience as a young student. So please don't let the fact that you don't have any working experience deter you from applying. You learn from the old ones and the old ones learn from you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Beatrix. And a nice response from Nina in the chat about the program being open to all different fields, and there's every field is actually about sustainability. It just depends on how you see its connection to the bigger story of sustainable development. Are there any other questions? You're welcome to unmute. Otherwise, we might. Michael?
Yes. Now, for what do you call sustainable energy and policies, anyone, so it's compulsory that everybody must study that, or you choose, but anyone can choose that.
Yes, so we only have one compulsory module. That's the foundation module, sustainable development, which provides the basis of everybody's learning experience. And then you have the choice to select a combination of modules that suits you. So Michael, if you would like to do a module about energy, you can choose to do a module about energy. Others who are more interested in food may choose to do food. Okay. So yes, we allow students to choose a combination that works for them.
Okay, but you can still mix energy and food if you wish.
We encourage it. Yeah, I think we often, if a student says, I have the chance to do 8 modules this year, I would always encourage students to have as diverse a combination of modules as possible, because it's an opportunity to invest in all these different themes. So yes, we encourage.
And for future careers, it will help big time. So as a consultant to other departments or other institutions, actually.
Exactly. And often we don't realize that these different themes are actually very strongly connected to each other. So food has a lot to do with energy, and it has a lot to do with design, and it has a lot to do with leadership. So the connections are very strong between the modules.
Thank you.
Okay, Kia, question from you.
Hi, Megan and everyone. I'm looking at the curriculum modules slide that you put up. So in that square, there are about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 modules. And then at the bottom, it's those 3 ones. Does it mean all these 14 modules fall under these 3 streams, or the bottom, the development planning, the bioenergy and renewable energy systems are also modules, or are they the core? Like
no, those are also all of those little blocks represent modules that students can choose from. The ones at the bottom 3 are offered by different programs in the university. So we allow students to register for modules offered on a different program in around where a module around development planning is offered, or other energy modules. So those are all modules that you can choose from. We don't have any streams.
Yeah, okay, no, that's perfect. All right, thank you so much.
Sure, thanks for your question.
All right.
And no, we don't have long, boring examinations. We have quite rigorous academic writing tasks for individual assignments. We have very exciting and vibrant group assessments, and we even include a reflective learning journal. So there is a wide diversity of assessments as well, but no exams that we all are required to sit at the same time like it was in undergrad for many of us. So we're at 10:30 now, and I want to maybe make sure that we don't miss any questions. If there are questions, please use the next 3 minutes to unmute and ask your question.
Last question, I hope.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. If you choose more than 8 modules per year, if you're doing it over 2 years, how do you structure it? Do you have a requirement that you guys expect us to have in order to do the modules, or I can just do random numbers per year?
So you have to do 8 modules in order to qualify for the degree, and we require that students either do that in 1 year full-time, or they spread that out over 2 years. We don't really, you're not required to do more than 8, and it is often a push if you want to expect that you're going to do more than 8, but you're only required to do 8 in that 1 or 2 year period, depending on whether you're full-time or part-time.
Okay.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it's fine for now. Thank you.
Okay.
Megan,
okay.
Just one last question from me. Just in terms of the actual time of a module, obviously there's the week commitment, but how long is each module? Is it about a month, or just thinking of planning in terms of if you have on from each other, or, you know, the spaces or the gaps, depending on what you actually choose?
That's a good point. So as we said earlier, the module is more than just that week of contact time. It requires preparation time and also time in wrapping up the assignment. So we usually say to students that it's a 50-hour commitment in terms of reading and preparation, 50 hours in the classroom, and 50 hours of assignment time. What happens is that the academic year starts, let's say, middle of February. We have the Sustainable Development module, and once you've completed your 6 block contact days, you have 6 weeks to complete an individual assignment, which is usually it's a 3-part assignment, and you write around 4,000 words per element. So maybe let's say it's a 9,000 or 10,000 word assignment. So it's quite academically rigorous, and it's a lot of reading that goes into putting that assignment together. So in that 6-week period, you may have another module that you have to think about attending whilst still completing and working to the submission time for the previous module. So the modules kind of stack on top of each other, and you have to think about the 6-day contact time, the 6-week window of writing the assignments, and how you're going to sit that in your calendar so that the module combinations the modules aren't bunched all in one time of the year. You want to try and spread it out as far as possible. So it's a little bit of a planning game. I hope I'm Danielle at the start of the academic year.
Okay, I think that's why I asked the question on just the timing of the individual modules, because obviously whether you do it in a full year or whether you do it over 2 years, just a rough idea of where those modules sit in the year would be helpful, you know, in terms of being able to plan.
Yeah, so essentially with all of the 15 modules that we offer, there's usually modules that run intensively from February to August or September, because remember, we can't run modules all the way until November because we've got to give the end of the academic year time to wrap things up and to take into consideration that 6-week assignment time. So you'll have modules that are fairly frequent from February to August or September, and you will choose a combination of modules in that time. And the modules are, we try to slot in the modules in weeks where there aren't public holidays, so we take into consideration all of that, which is why Beatrix says that it's like a Rubik's Cube, because there's lots of moving parts. But the academic year is full and intense, and often what happens is that students might think, Beatrix was saying the story on Tuesday when we had the in-person group, that sometimes students think, no, I can definitely do 8 modules and work at the same time. But it often happens that once you've done 2 modules, but then you realize you have 2 assignments waiting for you and you've got to go to your next module, you realize that sometimes it's not possible to do that all and perhaps work full time. So we encourage students to be prudent and not overly ambitious in the way that they plan their year, and to think about spreading out the academic year as far as possible. Beatrix has just offered in the chat that if anybody wants to see the schedule from 2021 to see how the modules were spread out, they're welcome to reach out to her and she will share that with them, with the important caveat that it will definitely change next year. So there's no commitment from our side that that's what the schedule will look like next year, because we have different considerations to factor in when we come up with a calendar for next year. I hope that has answered the question for you, though.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Enough. Okay.
But if I can add, the modules more or less stay the same. We always have complexity just after sustainable development. The food modules are always more or less in the same spaces. Yeah, I don't think that's going to help at all. But yeah, they more or less stay the same.
So we have a rhythm in the year, and the rhythm.
Yeah, thanks, Meg. Yeah.
The rhythm usually stays the same, which is that, for example, sustainable development and complexity are always at the start of the year, but the rhythm generally stays the same, but has to factor in whatever is happening in that particular year. Okay, so I think that we've seen a few people drop off, and some thanks in the chat. So thank you everybody for attending and for asking your questions. You're welcome to reach out to Beatrix if you have follow-up questions. I would encourage you to revisit the prospectus, take up Amelia and Vanessa's invitation to tap into the resources on the website, the podcasts, the LinkedIn page, the social media platforms of the Sustainability Institute. And it was really good to meet some of you, and we look forward to perhaps seeing you in person at the SI, and before that, reading your complete applications. Okay, so Amelia, do you think we can wrap up here?
Yes, thank you very much, Megan, for presenting and for sharing all the information with the prospective students. We hope to see many of you apply and complete your applications and to see your faces next year. I'll also just share some of the links and email addresses in a follow-up email to everyone. Yeah, so thanks for joining, and if there's any other further questions, you're welcome to reach out to Beatrix afterwards. But also please do read the prospectus. It contains most of the information that you guys are curious about. Beatrix, sorry, I see you would like to share some final words.
My final word is that I think I'll ask Amelia for all your email addresses, and then I can just send the recipe for the provisional quotation and this year's module structure to all of you. So with a Act and the protection of personal information. I'm saying to you now, I'm going to get your email address from Amelia. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, we won't market to you. You signed up willingly to receive information, so that's fine. Yeah, so thank you very much from the Sustainability Institute side. Thank you very much, Megan. Thank you for faculty that joined. Yeah, and thank you everyone for your time. Sorry for running a bit over schedule, but yeah, please have a good day further. Yeah, and keep safe.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.